trading her focaccia bread for a printer right now.
I don't want capitalism.
I get a good amount of pushback on these strategies that I think are going to help us get out of our current conditions. There's lots of people that are still waiting for like a big system thing, or like we need a party, or we need X, Y, and Z. And I think, first of all, I believe in all hands on deck, we do all strategies, but stuff like this is going to be the bedrock of it. And why? Because changing the way we live is changing the system in the most fundamental way. Obviously, top-down structures are important, but what do you do to get those top-down structures to fall? You create things that will supplant them. You give people alternatives. You show people what is possible using what we have, just person to person, that will give us a better way of living right now. And like the naysayer thing to say is like, well, that's not going to be enough. And of course, no single thing is going to be enough. It's going to be a lot of little things. And honestly, having something like buy nothing everywhere, where people are just trading goods and we're like ending planned obsolescence and spending less money with these corporations, like that's not a little thing. That's actually foundational to upending capitalism. There are many ways in which the system and systems in general are outside of us, but there are even more ways that we are part of these systems, and we can end our collaboration with these systems to whatever degree we are able to. And in all those ways we are able to, I believe it is our duty to do so as soon as is humanly possible. And that's everything from the Buy Nothing project, community gardens, small space gardens, like everything that we can do, getting solar installed, fighting your HOA, all of this stuff. We can be the system that supplants this one. And the thing to do is not to wait. Don't wait. Just start. Just start doing now. Climate change isn't getting any better. The economic system isn't getting any better. C-19 is still out and spunky. Everything is getting worse by the second. So if things are going to get better, it's going to be because we start making changes and start doing things that will make them better. There's no corporation or government that's going to do it for us. And I think that should be obvious by now. Start making moves and stay out of other people's way who are on the same side as you. If you don't like what they're doing, just give them if you like it, I love it, and go about your business. There's no need to fight them about it. People on the other side don't like each other more or have better strategy. They just know to go after us first. They're going to go after each other later when we're all taken care of, if they're successful. The best time to start making changes was yesterday. The next best time is right now. Just some of the supplies remaining for our Angel Day community outreach project. We're filling up these bags here with supplies and food for homeless people and those with dogs as well. We're going to give out the dog ones separately, as there are fewer homeless people with dogs that we've run into, but of course, since it's our speciality, we're going to make sure to involve them as well. Don't you ever see us
ICE just kidnapped someone else, and there was a protest, and someone was hit with a so-called rubber bullet, but they'll never be able to close their right hand in a tight fist for the rest of their life because of the injury sustained, and the neighbor's dog dug a hole under the fence again and snuck into our house because I think they're not feeding him, or maybe they're even abusing him, and there's an Iranian or a Palestinian or an Iranian or a Lebanese woman screaming, and she's holding what's left of someone she loved, and there's not even enough pieces to determine who or what or how they were because they were nearly atomized by the explosion, but she's holding these undifferentiated pieces of a person up to demand answers from like a clearly indifferent God. And I just got a fire nude from somebody I've been seeing and flirting with, and I keep looking at it, and I feel the heat rising between my legs. And the stock market was about to crash, but the news says that they're releasing more oil from a reserve, so it'll be fine. And my bestie's wedding is in 2 weeks, and I know I'll have to give a toast, but I can't think of any stories I can tell in front of their family, except maybe the time they came back from a deployment and had a burn mark on their lip, and they told me it was from when a hot piece of brass hopped out of their weapon wrong and got stuck on their face during a firefight with insurgents or terrorists or jihadists or something, or whoever it was, and they shot the body again even after they had downed the enemy because they were pissed off that they were going to have a scar. And I called them hot lips, and we laughed and laughed, but you had to be there. My grandmother was at a protest outside her church, and she said it was like when she was at a protest outside the State House 50 years ago. My ex was at a protest outside of Starbucks. My coworker was at a protest, a No Kings protest, and then went straight to the airport to attend an AI leadership conference. I'm hungry. I think I want pizza. Tacos? A burger. McDonald's? No, wait, the boycott. Wait, no, the burgers don't spoil after months. Wait, where are the people they flew out on that cargo plane that flew out to the ocean and then flew back? Where are the teen girl children they're separating in Texas, I think, that are pregnant, but abortion is illegal there? Oh, fuck, my credit card's almost at the limit, and the bill's due tomorrow, but if I pay it today, I can use it for my grocery shop in 2 days. What's in your wallet? I heard last time there were no more oranges from Florida. Someone tried to vote in my town. They said they weren't on the voter rolls and they had to show ID, but they're trans, so they left without voting. And I masturbated in the shower for the 5th day in a row, even though I'm so depressed by the news. Is that normal? I canceled therapy because they said politics was bad for my mental health, and just to focus on the family. They were the best part of waking up. I'm loving it. Your way to just do it in good hands is the happiest place on earth. Is it snap, crackle, pop, finger licking good in you? Someone stopped me and said they knew me from work, and I didn't recognize them. But they knew my name and where I worked, so we chatted, and I gave them my number. And then I read about those glasses where they tell you everything about a person, and I think I remember them wearing weird glasses. And it's 79 degrees outside, but it's winter. And it's 30 degrees outside, but it's spring. And my friend has just allergies, but I'm so tired for the 4th time this year, which is up from the 3 times last year, and 2 the year before that. And the dish was covered in Dawn soap, and it slipped out of my hands and smashed. And all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put it together again because they're in the Epstein files. And they said they were eating baby intestines, but that can't be right. Right? Turn right on red. No right on red. Cross on the green, not in between. Am I drinking too little water or too much? Is my carbon footprint on the sand from where Jesus carried me, or from when he abandoned me because his father abandoned him to die in the worst way so we could eat his flesh and drink his blood and be appalled when all the king's men are eating flesh and drinking blood? I really should get more vitamin B, K, more D. See? CNN says we'll win across the board in the midterms, and never at any point did anyone say Humpty Dumpty was an egg. And maybe tomorrow I'll protest with them, but I'm just one person. And what did one person ever do? Except that one person who set the building on fire, where they were going to build a new detention center that looked more like a concentration camp from the diagram I saw on, was it Insta, Meta, TikTok, Google, Facebook, Nightly News, 60 Minutes, and the owners canceled the contract, and that one white boy, who I don't think did the thing they say that they did, but damn, I read all those claims got paid out that week. But what did one person ever do? We do it all alone. You got to stand on your own 2 feet. And wow, that sunset is lovely. I heard the sunsets are so lovely there when the bombs stop falling long enough to stand outside. What a difference a day makes. Here's Alice with the weather.
Folks, if you've been longing for a reset, a fresh start, a new beginning, I've got some good news for you because this week Mercury retrograde are ending, Aries season and the astrological new year are beginning. I think that this is such an exciting week astrologically, so let's get into it. Today is Monday, March 16th, and a few hours ago, the moon moved from Aquarius into dreamy, boundless spiritual Pisces. Then tomorrow, Tuesday the 17th, there's nothing of particular note in the skies, but on Wednesday, March 18th, we have several juicy transits to talk about. First of all, Venus is at 15 degrees of Aries, forming a square to Jupiter at 15 degrees of Cancer. Now, even though a square is usually an aspect of friction and challenge, any contact between these two benefic planets is generally considered, well, beneficial. Aries is brave and bold, while Cancer tends to be more shy and quiet, so these two cardinal signs can certainly be at odds with each other, but they can also help to balance each other out. And a connection of Jupiter helps to expand the relational topics of Venus. The big picture view of Jupiter in carrying Cancer can have a positive impact on the fight for justice and equality that's always important to Venus, especially while in Aries. And this is a good day for financial abundance, for material generosity, for inspired creativity, for social connection, for loving relationships, for connecting to your values. It's a good moment to care for yourself and treat yourself. We do want to be careful about not overextending, overindulging, overpromising, or overdoing it too much on Wednesday. But this is overall a lovely signature to have in the chart of this new moon. The other lovely transit happening on this day is between the Sun at 28 degrees of Pisces, forming a sextile to Uranus at 28 degrees of Taurus, getting ready to finally enter Gemini late next month. I can't believe it. Now, this sextile here can really stimulate the forward-thinking, revolutionary values of Uranus and help us to incorporate them more into our behaviors and our identities. A Sun contact with Uranus always wants to help you become more true to your authentic self, to decondition toxic programming from the overculture, to free ourselves and to liberate the collective. This is another good reason why Wednesday is such a lovely fresh start and gives us some really good energy to work with to make changes in our lives and in the world. And we can incorporate the compassion of Pisces and the groundedness of Taurus, even as we navigate the unexpected events that Uranus tends to bring about. So that's just Wednesday afternoon, but then that evening we have the new moon with the Sun and Moon conjunct at 28.5 degrees of Pisces. And I want to actually pull up the chart of this new moon to show you here. Now, first of all, this new moon means that we're now fully out of eclipse season. Yay! So you can return to your regularly scheduled programming around magic and manifestation and whatnot. A new moon is always a fresh start, right? It's the end of an old lunar cycle and the beginning of a new one. It's a time to plant seeds, whether figuratively or maybe even literally. And a Pisces new moon specifically is such a fertile time to set intentions around spirituality, creativity, and empathy. This is an opportunity to dissolve old limits and boundaries and restrictions. It's a moment to honor our sensitivity and our interconnectedness. And this new moon in Pisces is really encouraging us to dream, to envision the new world that we're trying to build. Because let's face it, our society is at a breaking point, right? The cracks in the systems are really showing, but we can't cultivate a new garden unless we can dream it, envision it, plan it, and plant those seeds, which is what Wednesday and this new moon is all about. And of course, this new moon over here in Pisces sits in that sextile to Uranus that I was just talking about, giving us even more power and inspiration to create change. The other notable aspect with this new moon is that it's only a few degrees away from Saturn and Neptune, which are now in early Aries. And Neptune is the ruling planet of Pisces and this new moon, making it even more important to consider here. As I've shared before, Saturn and Neptune are a really powerful combination for change, for dissolving old structures and building new ones. And I think what this new moon is doing, like some other transits that we chatted about recently, is helping us to bridge from Pisces season to Aries season and from an old era to a new one. This new moon is happening here at the end of Pisces, only 2 days from the start of Aries season. It's conjunct Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, which is currently in Aries, while Mars, the ruler of Aries, is currently in Pisces. And for the astro nerds out there, you might recognize this as a phenomenon known as mutual reception, when the rulers of two signs are in each other's signs, helping to tie these two very different energies together. Oh, and then the moon is going to move from Pisces into Aries later that evening as well. So, TLDR, this new moon is encouraging us to dream, and then it's giving us a real nudge toward acting on those dreams. The healing waters of Pisces are trying to help to soothe and ease the birth or rebirth of this messy new world. So, Wednesday's a big day, but it might not even be the most transformational day of this important week in the stars. Thursday the 19th is going to be pretty quiet, but then Friday the 20th is a big, exciting day. First of all, this is the spring or vernal equinox, which is called Ostara for those of us who celebrate the neo-pagan wheel of the year. So this is the time when day and night are of equal length. It's a day of balance, which is a powerful topic to reflect on and set intentions about this week. And after Friday, the days will be longer than the nights and continue getting longer as we approach the summer solstice. So we're now officially entering the lightest half of the year, a time of flourishing life and energy and optimism. Gotta love it. At least if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere people, as you know, things are kind of reversed for you, right? But this day is also considered the astrological new year because the spring equinox always coincides exactly with the sun leaving the last zodiac sign of Pisces and entering the first zodiac sign of Aries. So this is a time of rebirth and renewal. Happy New Year, friends. And happy Aries season and happy birthday to all the Aries suns out there. Aries, the cardinal fire sign, the sign of taking action and getting shit started, the sign of the ram, which will boldly go after its desires and fight to protect what it cares about. Aries is the sign of the warrior, which is a powerfully relevant archetype these days. And so Aries is a sign associated with conflict. Could this season add even more fuel to the fire of warmongering, global conflict, and those who are doing harm for greedy, evil purposes? Honestly, yeah. But it's Aries season for us too. And I'm really hoping that we can harness this bold, brave energy to take action, to fight back, to protect ourselves and our neighbors, and to make a stand for what we believe in. Now, it just so happens that another huge thing is happening on Friday, which might help us to access more of this fiery Aries energy. I'm talking about the end of Mercury retrograde. Woohoo! Now, listen, if you haven't taken advantage of this Mercury retrograde in Pisces to rest and reflect, I really recommend that you try to do so this week before Friday. Mercury retrogrades happen for a reason, giving us the opportunity to course correct. And if we don't take that opportunity, then we run the risk of galloping in the totally wrong direction for the next several months until this happens again. But when Mercury stations direct at 8.5 degrees of Pisces on Friday afternoon, more things will start to move forward again. Hopefully we'll have more energy and clarity, less fatigue and confusion. Logistics, travel, information, and communication should run a bit more smoothly again. We're less likely to run into issues when we're starting new projects or making big decisions. And I just love how this harmonizes so powerfully with the fresh start energy of the other transits this week. Late on Friday evening, the moon will also move out of Aries into steady, sensual Taurus. And then the good astrological news keeps coming on Saturday, March 21st, because Mars will be at 15 degrees of Pisces, forming a flowing trine to Jupiter in the middle of Cancer. And this transit echoes some of the themes we've already touched on here, expanding our energy, accessing more flow, moving forward. The fiery energies of Mars and Jupiter can get really hot and intense, but this trine is between two water signs, which emphasizes the emotion, intuition, spirituality, and healing in the potentials of this transit. So we're really being encouraged here to take compassionate, caring action, to be brave and generous, to have faith in love and empathy, to connect with the universe in a life-affirming way. We do want to make sure that all of that is grounded in concrete action and not just staying in our heads. And of course, there is also a chance that this transit could expand conflict and aggression from those with bad intentions as well. But if you already know how bad things are, I think it's more helpful to focus on the potential energy that we can harness out of this trine, and there's a lot of it. That then brings us to the final transit of this week, which is probably the most challenging one. On Sunday, March 22nd, the Sun will be conjunct Neptune at just under 2 degrees of Aries. Now, at best, this transit can have us embodying the brave compassion, the energetic vision, the boundless drive, the spiritually aligned action that Neptune in Aries can represent. But, honestly, this could definitely be a messy and uncomfortable moment because Neptune brings fogginess and illusion. The Sun represents our identity, but Neptune transcends that ego, which could just leave us feeling confused and even delusional. You might feel that your energy is clouded or just dissipating like steam. You might feel tempted to numb out or just try to escape from everything in an unhealthy way. And of course, this transit could also amp up the religious conflicts that are racking our world these days. So Sunday is an important day to focus on staying as grounded and clear as possible. And I do think this is another transit helping us to bridge from the Neptunian Piscean dreams and visions to the bold action of Aries and the Sun. So it's an interesting way to end this very transformative week. And that's it for this week's Astrological Weather Report. I'm Alice Pope. Logan, back to you.
It's just so amazing how life invites life. This giant bee is just visiting all my flowers. And also, this guy has moved in. Where is he? He's almost invisible. There he is. Welcome to the garden, friend.
You don't ever have to seek revenge. Rotten fruit will fall by itself.
Think for yourself. Do you think the Sith care who becomes a galactic senator? We wait for the Jedi Council. They do not move. The Sith seek only to destroy and have perverted or subverted every means we have. I am the Grey because I do not wait. I will not sit in the smoldering ruin of galaxies. I will use whatever tools at my disposal. If we are to have a way, this is the way. I am an invisible man. No, I am not a spook like those who haunted Edgar Allan Poe, nor am I one of your Hollywood movie ectoplasms. I am a man of substance, of flesh and bone, fiber and liquids, and I might even be said to possess a mind. I am invisible, understand, simply because people refuse to see me. Ralph Ellison.
Don't try this at home.
Well, hello. Hope you've been enjoying our show so far. That was a song called The Resistance with my old band Villain's Lament from many years ago. A tale from the Grendelverse, from a different life. At this point, I've lived many of them, and I like to share them with you sometimes, and some of them. At least the ones that I can show you here, where it's allowed. Maybe there'll be some others in other places where I'll show you other things that YouTube simply would not let us show. But anyway, it is now time for our weekly delve. But before we do that, I wanted to rewind back to the piece I did at the beginning. The piece is called The Algorithm. I wrote it recently, and it is just, it's how it feels to be alive these days. And I wanted to create something that felt, that was, no AI here, not AI generated, but also something that felt very much like the storm of things that is always coming at us. And the fact is that we have to hold all these things at once, right? We have to hold the rage and the pain and the confusion, and also that the rent needs to be paid, and we've got family events coming up, and life just keeps on keeping on. And that's something we just got to get used to, because things aren't going to get any different or better before they get probably worse. But we're going to have to hold all those things. And the nuance is not that there is one or the other, but that we have to be able to flexibly juggle it all. We have to deal with it all somehow. We have to turn some things down when we have to, and turn them up when we can. And it is, I hope that it resonated with you, and that, that the flashing didn't hurt anyone, or, maybe we'll put a flash warning next time. But that is what that is. Anyway, let's get into our weekly delve into one of my, two of my favorite vinyls from my collection. And this week we're going to start with one of my favorite artists, and that is Father John Misty. And this is his latest album, Mahashmashana. Try pronouncing that a few times. It took me, I had to practice saying it so that I didn't mess it up. I think he's one of the greatest living songwriters. I really do. Just the way that he puts words together is amazing. And also just, the way it feels. The first song on this album is Mahashmashana itself, and it's a very long song. It's soaring, it's orchestral, it's different. It's different than what we might expect even from him. It sounds a little bit like a film soundtrack kind of vibe. And the song after that is She Cleans Up, and this song has one of the best intros. The lyrics are, I had a vision that Mary of Magdalene saw the future that awaits us just before Good Friday Eve, figured the wages of salvation were a little too steep, said no one's fucking with my baby lord, and got armed to the teeth, cleaning up. Amazing. Amazing. The song continues kind of like that, and it's, it is basically like a it's like, power to femme people, basically, and like rewriting some of the stories of history in a way that feels genuine and not pandering, even though it is from a cisman. And he generally has, from what I know, decent politics, though you never can tell. And in this world, really, there are so many blind spots that people have that I think another little, since we're doing nuance at the moment, one of those is that we have got to learn to not throw away or accept people lock, stock, and barrel, right? There comes a point at which a person is in the out bin, and like you can still acknowledge that they've said something useful or done something good, but it's still fuck them. But most people, at some point, because we are all thoroughly indoctrinated, are going to say something that's going to appall you or that you're going to disagree with. And that is fucking okay, right? It's like, really, we need to be harder on systems and easier on each other. Anyway, the other great song from this album is called Mental Health. And the way that one starts is, in the panopticon, they never turned the cameras on. The guards and the narcs went home. We do a fine enough job on our own. And very evocative. and obviously talking about, you know, the way that we opt in to the way we are all being surveilled and constantly watched and all of that sort of nonsense. You know, hello, Ring camera users, if there are any of you in here, if there's, I hope you can feel me side-eyeing you, because I'm not even side-eyeing you, I'm front-eyeing you, because that shit is, you got to get rid of that. You've got to get rid of the Ring camera. Please. Please. But at any rate, this album, it's another one of those start to finish albums. And if you haven't heard him before, I would, you know what? I would say you could start with this album. My favorite album of his is still probably actually, I won't spoil it because I'll probably share that one with you too at some point, because it has some of my favorite, cutest songs on it. But this one is a really, here, let me show you also the back, which is just Father John Misty himself, Josh Tillman, and the inside of it here. We do love some good art. And also, the other good thing about a record is that they often will put in other pieces of artwork or other things, or just like little treats. And in this one, it's just got more of the artwork that he was creating or thinking about when making the album, and some other little pieces of writing that didn't end up becoming songs. You know, with an album, with a whole album, you can really give people an experience. And with streaming, you know, I don't know how many of you do, but I really do like to listen to albums start to finish, because there is a way that, you know, any artist that is intentional, right, designs an album for flow. You know, it's just like making a set list, or like the set list for this show. The flow is part of the art, right? How everything connects to each other thing is part of the art. And that's one of the beautiful things about albums that is lost when you just listen to singles. And when, you know, we don't have, you know, media which allows us to interact with the entire thing as something we have to interact with. And I even love, I'm sure I've mentioned this before, and I'm sure I'll mention it again, that I love about albums that you have to interact with them. That you have to go and physically handle it and turn it over, or switch to, you know, if it's a 2-record set, you have to switch to them. You have to just physically interact with it. And it's also a good time measure as well, because, you know, in the world of endless scroll, a lot of things are made so that they just keep happening, right? Even when you're on Spotify, the music can just keep coming. But with a record, you get those markers of time, which actually help you to think about what you just listened to, and to remember to interact with it. And just also just, you know, I am a very tactile sort of person. You know, touch is a very important sense for me. So doing that with music, for me, adds to the experience. And maybe it could do the same for you. But now we're going to switch to our next album, which is yes, we're going to Heart. Now, you all know, and there's not a lot of really famous femme-fronted rock groups, but among them, Heart ranks near the top. The singing is amazing. The riffs are amazing. Super duper freaking memorable. Super memorable. I bet. Can anyone name a Heart song? Could you name a Heart song for me? Come on, give me one. Do it quick. You know I don't like to wait. Don't leave your girl waiting. And your time is up. We're going for, obviously, Barracuda. Thank you. Yes, Nerdy Bat. Thank you, Nerdy Bat. Barracuda is, you know, one of the most memorable riffs. Like, I think even if you didn't know the song, you've heard it before. Dun, 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 dun. You know what I mean? It's very, very, very memorable. And then, like, you know, they use that like sort of strange, you know, they make noises with the guitar, and then the voice comes in, and it's this like high, clear, sonorous, powerful, you know, set of vocals that weaves in so well with the music. And, you know, to have a woman fronted group. This was, I mean, it has to be like the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, I think from the songs are from 76 through 1980, because this is a greatest hits album, greatest hits live album, and also of course Crazy on You. Crazy on You, one of the most memorable riffs in rock and roll, and like the way she sings, come on, like Rasputina did a great cover. I will have to check that out. I don't know if I've heard that, but I will have to check it out. Straight On, Dreamboat Annie, Magic Man, Try to Understand. Beautiful song, and it's like I feel like the person who's being sung about in Magic Man is probably a real piece of shit, you know, but it is I love it when there is music that expresses emotions or feelings or desires. Like when we know that we want something fucked up, that's such a part of the human experience, right? There's the stuff that you have to say, like, you know, you want someone who is good and treats you well and blah, blah, blah. And like, but just thinking about, even fantasizing about, you know, sometimes as a friend of mine once said, sometimes you want the knight, sometimes you want the dragon. And as we get older, I would hope that we learn better and we learn to treat ourselves better and we learn to actually desire things that are good for us and are going to, you know, feed us and be good for our lives. But that fantasy can remain, and through song is a fucking excellent way to go about it. Magic Man is is a great song. Baby Lestrange, obviously. There's also a cover of Unchained Melody, which, you know, of Ghost fame, but they do their version of it. And a really sweet song, which I'm not sure if you've heard, but if you haven't heard it, I would check it out. It's called Dog and Butterfly, and it's in a rock song. It's a ballad. It's like a gentle song, but it really feels like a summer day in like a field somewhere, and there's just like a happy, you know, waggling dog who sits down, and then like a butterfly comes and like flits around his face and like lands on its nose, and just kind of like they both sit there in the sunlight. That's how the song feels. I recommend it. I recommend it when you want a little, like, you know, little, I don't know, it's like a little smile, a little emotional pick me up. But I warn you that there is something wistful about it too, which it can either be really joyful or it could take a turn for sad somehow too. You know, I don't know, but it's really evocative and really, really lovely. There are femme-fronted bands, woman-fronted bands, from really any era, obviously, but it's really important to highlight like how difficult it was and still is, right, for women-led bands to enter the mainstream, not because of any lack of talent or whatever or any shit like that, but just like anyone who isn't a cis-het white man for money, things are gatekept, right? And I remind people that it's not only gatekept at the level of stardom, but it's also gatekept through every stage, right? It's just harder to go about your day as a person who is not a cis-het man, right? It's just, there are more things, there are more hurdles, there are more obstacles, there are more things just standing in your way as you go through life. And that's really what privilege really, sometimes I like to explain privilege to people, at least who are like genuinely trying to understand and not just like being trollish about it. But I like to explain privilege as not the things that you get, but things that aren't taken away from you every day, right? Like if you're a cis-het white man, you know, 6 foot tall, good looking, right? You'll still have to deal with the bullshit of capitalism. We've all got to deal with that, right? We've all got to deal with the bullshit our government throws at us. So that is something we all got to deal with. But You also, when you're walking down the street, don't have to worry about someone calling you some kind of F slur or harassing you or following you because of who you are. Or, right, it's all of these little frictional experiences that just make it harder for us to achieve before we even get to the level where someone is choosing between us and between one of them. So that's why, we have to make sure to see the experiences and the achievements of women, of BIPOC, of basically people who are not the top level of the overculture. All of our achievements, and I mean this for y'all too, everything you're able to achieve, everything you're able to do, you should thank yourself, you should praise yourself even more highly, because you have more hurdles in your way, right? A poor black trans woman is playing this life on the hardest mode there is. There is no more difficult mode than that, right? And if you think about that, it's just the things that are taken away from you and the dangers, right? So, tangent, of course, but relevant. Give women-fronted, femme-fronted bands their flowers because they are deserved. They are, and of course also just to have music written from a different voice than you're used to hearing, not assuming the same voice as axiomatic. People getting to tell their own stories through art that endures is such an important part of culture, and more importantly of the human experience. And those are our 2 albums for this week. And now we're going to go right into our next segment.
Intellectual and spiritual artillery that precedes the ground invasion of capitalism and supremacy and colonialism and imperialism. It works like that every single time.
If God is willing to destroy evil, but unable, he is not omniscient. If he is able to destroy evil, but not willing, then he is malevolent.
Hello darlings, it's been a while since we did some prepper content, so I want to talk about water and water storage. So here are a few of the options that I keep. Your mileage may vary and you may have some that I don't, but let's talk about each one briefly. Starting with my least favorite, just these, plastic water bottles. Keep in mind that water companies do not make water, they just make plastic. These are just good basically because, you can give them out. They're good for situations where you might have a bunch of people and you need to give each one an individual one. Otherwise, not much use for my purposes for prep. Next, and sort of good basic, is the 5-gallon water bottle. Get the BPA free ones, even though that doesn't necessarily mean there will not be any endocrine disrupting chemicals in it, but it is what it is. Next, and my favorite of these, are water bricks. They are stackable, like Legos. You can see they have the little grooves here, which makes them just slot right in. So, they don't have that round profile, which makes them easier to fit into closets and such. Also, inexpensive and not to be slept on is regular old glass jars. You get tons of them and, keep the lids. And if you're going to keep them, you may as well store them with some water in them. In an emergency situation, it will be nothing to scoff at. And last but definitely not least is the water bob. This one is for emergencies, right when a crisis happens, but the water is still running. You put it in your bathtub and you fill it up, and it stores up to 100 gallons of fresh drinking water, and it's got even a little tap on it. Also keep in mind that whatever the government tells you to have, double it or triple it. And it's much better in terms of prepping always to think in terms of comfortable maximums rather than arbitrary minimums.
Hello, my babies. I will, for example, handle reincarnation as a matter of fact, completely disregarding the great controversy that rages over the subject. There are 2 reasons for this. First, the simple fact that when one puts themselves into the proper level of consciousness, one may obtain this information firsthand. Second, we know that energy cannot be lost within a closed system. The main characteristic of the phenomenon of life is that it counteracts the general tendency of things to run down. That is, a system containing a high degree of order will tend to run down towards a state of disorder while dissipating the availability of energy. We call this an increase in entropy. Let us take the human body as an example. In order to keep ourselves alive, we have to eat. But what do we eat? We eat either animal, vegetable, or mineral products. But where do these come from? The vegetable or grasses take suitable minerals from the soil of our planet, put order into them, and organize them into molecules that are used to build live cells of the plant. Some of these cells are digestible by our digestive system, and some are not. We and other plant-eating animals eat the plant material and organize it into a more complex molecule, a protein, which is found in meat. Man and other predators have the choice of eating directly the protein built up by the plant-eating animal or the plant from the planet. The DNA of our chromosomes, which contain the information required to build extra copies of our bodies, are extremely stable substances. Very rarely do we find gross errors within that system. That is, we encounter few people who have 2 noses, 3 legs, etc. Our physical properties are well guarded within our chromosomes, down to the very finest detail. And a very high degree of order and stability is maintained there. This shows how life organizes random minerals into a very stable structure and maintains this order for a long period of time. Again, this is negative entropy. Well, then what happens when we die? The organizing life energy departs, and our bodies start decomposing rapidly. Our precious information-carrying proteins decompose into badly smelling rot. With time, in the grave, these substances will be broken down into still simpler ones. We have returned to the planet the substances we borrowed from it. But there is another component to life other than the physical body. We know that during our lifetime, we build up and store enormous amounts of information. That information is also energy that is becoming organized. In childhood, the events that occur to us seem to be random and unconnected, a kind of wild fallout from the world of the grown-ups. As we grow up, we begin recognizing the patterns of events and their causes. In short, we put order into them. This order is analogous to the order the life force has put into the minerals to organize and integrate them into a living material body. During a human lifetime, we organize a lot of information on many levels. Emotional information is built up, mental information is built up, and on and on and on. This information bundle is not material, although some will say that it's in the brain. What we have here is a body of knowledge. It is a non-material entity containing all the knowledge that we have accumulated over a lifetime, including our personality traits and characteristics. It is the non-material us. In life, we deal, therefore, with 2 organizing systems, one material and one non-material. At the time of death, the physical system decays and disorder sets in. Will the same thing happen to the non-physical energy system? This system, which I shall call the psyche, is the organizer and processor of this information, and that information is stored outside our physical bodies. I assert that the psyche can exist independent of the physical body, that this thinking and knowing part of us is conserved. It is non-physical and therefore not subject to decay after the death of the physical body. This body of information will eventually be absorbed into the large reservoir of information produced by all of mankind, which I shall call the universal mind. However, this will occur over a very long period of time. It may take many thousands or millions of years for this to happen. Thus, nothing is lost. The physical body is reabsorbed by the planet, and the body of knowledge is absorbed back from whence it came. So in this way, no organized energy is ever lost. Wow!
And that, friends, brings us towards the end of this episode, the 15th episode of the Focused on Infinity Hour, more or less. And today is Rachel Corrie Day. This was the day that Rachel Corrie, who, if you don't know, is a white person who stood up and got literally crushed by the machine for it. And I believe that more people like her, you know, she carries that John Brown, that Heather Heyer, that kind of energy where people who are born into the lie, who could just be quiet, go along to get along and accept the supposed gift that is really a curse of white supremacy, do not accept that. And are sometimes, though not as often as you think, but sometimes destroyed for it. And I feel like the reason that there are not more of those is twofold. One is that it is really vitally important, and please, this is going to be nuanced, so follow with me. It is really vitally important that BIPOC get to lead our own struggles, right? Get to tell our own stories. However, it is also important to remember racism is not a black people problem. It is a white people problem, right? Capitalism is something that is not, it's not the people's problem. It's the vulture class that's the problem, right? So we need to definitely, I do believe, and some will disagree with me, but I believe we should uplift people like Rachel Corrie, people who really put skin in the game, put their lives on the line for the people, especially those who put their lives on the line for the people who don't look like them. People who aren't willing to just go along to get along. Because, I understand, and again, nuanced, understanding something is not the same thing as excusing it, right? But I understand why some people take the devil's bargain. I understand why some people just keep their heads down and buy in and don't say anything even though they fucking know it's wrong. I know why they do. It's cowardly. It's fucked up. They shouldn't do it. But I get it. I do understand it. I'm still judging those people heavy and hard at all times. But I do understand it because there is this idea that we're not supposed to pat ourselves on the back too much. I think it's bullshit, right? And as we are shifting over into a lot of Aries energy, as the astrological weather report told you, this Thursday, when the sun moves into Aries, everything and we go out of Mercury retrograde and we're out of eclipse season, things are going to move forward in good ways and in bad. And I believe that the people are going to really start, the energies of the time, everyone gets the energies of the time. Our enemies do and our allies do, right? And we're going to start moving forward. And part of that moving forward, part of that Aries energy is something that a lot of people would call ego, would call hubris, would call foolhardiness, right? Because you got to have valor. You got to have bravery to move through this life in a way that speaks well of you, that actually is going to mean something to you, right? And it's about it not being just for the sake of, I did it. There's nothing that is more irritating to me than Americans who make travel their entire personality. Like, oh yeah, what do you like? Oh, I like to travel. No, that means you like to consume places as if they were a different, a new handbag or something, right? You don't actually experience stuff by going someplace to a fucking resort for 5 days and going, whatever. It's nonsense, right? But there is an extent to which making sure to put your mark on the world, right? To experience the world in a way that is brave and is honest and is direct. That is really important. That's important for everybody, right? Because remember, we all have all the instincts. Like the things that you dislike in other people is often because it's something that you have in yourself that you don't really like, or something in yourself that you have. Sometimes the worst thing is when someone is poorly expressing something that we understand but have found a way to work through and be better about. That's hard, right? That's so hard to watch when, say you're like a jealous person, right? And look, again, being a jealous person, more people need to just acknowledge jealousy, because jealousy is an emotion. All emotions are just data. It's just information, right? How you act about it determines the whole story, right? But like, say, you see a person who is behaving negatively because of their jealousy, and you're a person who experiences jealousy, but you learn to work through it. You learn to say like, okay, this is causing a feeling, but I'm going to talk to the person. I'm going to, and when you see someone just being wild about it, it's hard to watch. And it's like, girl, sit down, right? Because you understand it in a way, but you've also been able to move beyond it. And wow. And that is true of a lot of things, things we see astrologically. You'll see something that you deal with, but is like, you either dealt with or you would just never express. And someone else is just doing it out there. And you're just like, ooh, could never be me. But that should give you a little bit of understanding, right? Tangent, as I do. What we need bravery. We need valor. We need to be able to look at the world around us and say, this is what I'm going to do about this. This is what I am doing about this. I'm not going to wait for somebody to tell me what to do, right? We're coming out of that Piscean fog where it's kind of like, Pisces is the delta of the zodiac, right? And Piscean people are capable of anything. Like, please don't let them or anyone else tell you that these people are innocent and gentle. Listen, capable of some of the worst shit you've ever seen in your entire life, and they will make themselves seem like the victims. No shade, but also full shade, because that's how it be. But then you get to Aries, and it is about embodiment. It's about I'm here. It's about, I am is the keyword of Aries, and that is the energy that we need, because there's a number of ways which we have basically been, we've been made to like forget that we are indeed here, that our individual life does matter. And yes, not in an individualistic way where it's like only I matter, right? But I get to have this life. I get to share in this life with the other people around me. I get to taste the food and run amongst the trees and stand in the rain and feel, feel the rain on your skin. I know. It was right there. I couldn't help it. But seriously, we really do need to think more about putting our stamp on the world, and not in the way that we're taught to, where like, you got to win an Oscar, you got to win a Grammy, or you don't mean anything. You got to be a doctor or a lawyer, or you don't mean anything. No, that's not what I mean. I mean actually touching the lives of the people around you. Actually being the person that you and only you are uniquely able to be. Bravely. And I think that right now, there are ways that we need to do that you, literally you, need to do that. You need a little bit more Rachel Corey on your activity, right? Because, and I've seen this from a lot of people who, there's lots of people of color who don't fuck with white people, and I get it. I get it, because it's a tough go. But I've also seen that a lot of y'all actually do ride for the people, actually do show up, actually do care, actually do put skin in the game. And yes, you mess up. Sure. Because we're all Americans. We've all got, whatever. It is what it is. But I believe that acknowledging the ways that you have done good and want to continue to do good, feeling good about yourself is not a bad thing. Feeling proud of yourself for being brave is not a bad thing, right? Patting yourself on the back when you make a good choice, yeah, it's the thing you're supposed to do and you should do it. Sure. But we don't need to be like all like hard and totally, icy about it, right? Yes, you do the good thing because it's the thing to do. Sure. But you also do it because it should feel good. It should feel good to do the good thing. You should feel good about doing the good thing. And you should be surrounded by people who will be like, you know what, you did that. You did that. And you could have done anything. You could have done a number of things and you didn't. You chose to do the right thing. You chose to do the good thing. You chose to do the thing that actually helps us. And if we supported each other more with that kind of energy, the world would be so much better. Truly. It truly would. If we were to actually give each other our fucking flowers for making good choices and not feel like it is not virtuous. I believe that it's a fucking psyop. That people think it is, it's super fucked up to talk about your acts of charity, but it's totally okay to show a million pictures of your destination wedding. Think about this, right? If you are essentially bragging about your vacation, your new car, your big fancy wedding, your big fancy new house, everybody's gonna be like, ooh, yeah. But if you're like, you know what, this weekend I went and fed people at a soup kitchen, people will really be like, why are you posting about that? Why are you, you're not supposed to tell me about that. And you know why? Think about it, right? I really feel like people haven't thought about this. Because a lot of people do believe that it is more virtuous to do everything good in silent, but all the other stuff you can do out in public. And why? Who does that serve? Who does that really serve? I really feel like, again, competition, which is another Aries-driven thing, competition is also a natural drive. Competition, though, is not supposed to be to destroy each other. It's supposed to be to make each other better. Iron sharpens iron, that kind of thing, right? And if we were competing with each other, friendly competition, obviously, and not like weird, let's not be weird about it, but if we were competing with each other to see who could do the most good, right? See who's really about that life. Don't you think that would be better than like competing to see who's seen the most episodes of some show, or who had, who's been to the latest restaurant, or, who was first to hear some new fucking Taylor Swift out? You know what I mean? The stuff that is common for people to compete over only serves the overculture. So obviously there are some people who share things that they've done good for the wrong reasons. Of course there are. There always are. There always are. But we shouldn't let those people dictate the conversation, because it is good to do good. And we should hold up people who do good. And not forget that with this one life that you've got, this one body that you've got, whatever ability, whatever the morphology, whatever the phenotype, whatever it is that you've got, you should do the most you can with it. And you should be able to be proud of that. And you should be able to say, yes, I fucking did a good thing. And not feel like you have to hide that. Why? Why are we hiding only the good things that we do? It really strikes me as strange, But at any rate, we are going to say goodnight for now. This our 15th episode of the Focused on Infinity Hour, more or less. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I hope that you will continue to tell your friends about it and share. I like to share little snippets and clips from the show on YouTube or on Instagram. Please do help your girl out by sharing those things, sharing the show, telling people about us, and also, please do submit your art, your ideas, anything that you've got that you think might be something that would be good on this show. We like it weird, we like it interesting, we like it novel, and we like to show the real, right? And we're only ever going to work with independent type folks. You will never see some like big artists on here, even though there are people who I thought about asking and been like, no, I don't want that for this, right? Because I want to show what happens when it's the people, just, from the people to the people, right? People who have gotten their notoriety just by being themselves and by going directly to the people without using any of the standard channels. Because those are relics. Those are relics of a dying world. And we are building a new one. We're building it in real time as the old one collapses. I want to thank, obviously, all of the excellent people who make this show possible. Alice Pope of Alice Pope Astrology, the wise worm, and of course, my collaborator and co-conspirator in crime and all other things, the amazing Mistrix. And hey, y'all, I really just can't wait for when they officially announce that Benjamin Milikowski is no more. I really hope that's the case. I really do. Have you seen the AI video of him at the coffee shop? Listen, let me tell you something, okay? The coffee shop was not open because there were bombs falling down, okay? So, it really, nonsense. Learn to spot AI, right? Learn to test for AI when you're looking at basically anything, unfortunately. It's a fact of life now. We got to watch out for it. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. Much love to you all. We'll see you next time.